Hello and welcome back to Voice Matters October Live. Today is day 4, How to Thrive During Important Conversations. And my main tip for you today is actually in the title. Notice that I didn't use a title like Having the Hard Conversations or 3 Keys to Nailing Those Tough Conversations. In the words of William Shakespeare and Juliet from Romeo and Juliet, what's in a name? In this case, nearly everything is in the name. If you want to shift from merely surviving those key conversations in your life to thriving in there, the name that you use as you head into it really does matter. When we label these kinds of conversations hard or difficult, we're already giving in to an assumption of how it's going to go, and that it's not going to go well. It's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a struggle. Notice how you feel in your body and how you feel emotionally and how you feel energetically each time I say one of those words. It's basically giving the reins over to our soul suckers, which is the inner critic voice, and letting them drive how it goes, letting them go into the conversation, bracing for impact and protecting us, but also shutting down our hearts. And it tends to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. If we decide it's going to be hard, then we're looking for things to be hard and things to be a struggle. Now imagine that every time you or someone else in your life says the label hard conversation or difficult conversation, that you switch it out loud or in your mind to, I'm about to have a conversation that really matters. I'm about to have a really key conversation with someone. I'm about to have a conversation that matters. I'm about to have a really important conversation. Notice how that feels emotionally, energetically, and in your body. You probably still feel some sensation in your heart, possibly something that you would even call nervousness. And that is a sign of how much that conversation does matter. This can help us to release our soul suckers from the responsibility of being in charge. And then next, when you're on the way into the conversation, ask yourself, what is it that's important to me in this conversation that matters? And capture the thoughts that come to you. And then set an intention for what you'd like to create. Maybe you want to create more understanding between you and the person that you're going to have this important conversation with. Maybe you want to create more love or more connection. Notice how that's really different. Many, many years ago, I hadn't studied coaching. I wasn't doing what I do now for a living. And I did this myself. I was about to go ask a boss for a raise. And I was describing it like, oh, I'm going to have a hard conversation. And I walked in to ask him for the raise, and complete and utter gobbledygook came out of my mouth. I think I was sort of looking away and, thinking about how hard this was. And eventually I said something like, could I maybe possibly have a little bit more money? And then once I'd gotten it out of my mouth, I shifted into a gear where I was coming at him with logic and all of the logical reasons that I deserved this raise. And I remember him sort of looking at me and wondering where his pretty confident, well-spoken assistant had gone, and struggling to understand the words that were coming out of my mouth. But I saw a light bulb go off when I said more money. And he grabbed a folder, he looked at it. I'm still sitting over there justifying myself, bracing for impact, bracing for the no, that I'm not paying much attention to what's going on with him. And eventually he said something like, I'm going to stop you right there. I just looked through the files. It's been 18 months since we set your salary in the first place. Why didn't you come to me sooner? Yes, I'm going to bump your salary up, and I'm going to bump it up by $12,000 a year. I was shocked. Now, most of the time when we brace for the conversations to be hard, we don't actually get this lucky. This happens to be one of, if not the favorite boss of my lifetime. So I would like to ask you to try this during your next conversation with a loved one, your next conversation negotiating salary or asking for a raise, or your next important conversation with a colleague or a business partner that you work with. Change the label in your head to conversations that matter. Then set an intention for what you do want to create between yourself and that other person. And if you can take on even more, breathe deep as you're heading into the conversation and expand your energy rather than letting it kind of implode like I did in my story of asking for a raise. Try that out, comment on the video, or shoot me an email and let me know how it goes. I have a program coming up called Power 2.0 Master the Art of Assertiveness. In that program, we look at situations like this. We look at them, we pull them apart, we explore them to help you transform how you're showing up in the world and embody it and make it real and make it your new habit. If you're interested, I will post a link if it's not already pasted in there. Check out the program, sign up for a free consultation. I'll help you decide whether or not it's the program for you and whether or not this is the time for you. No strings attached. Thanks, and I'll see you tomorrow.